Alright, real talk for a second. You ever load into a brand new Minecraft world, and the second you spawn, somebody hands you a list of 40 things you have to do in a specific order on a specific timeline, and if you don't do them exactly right, you fail? No exploring, no building your own base wherever you want, no deciding, actually, I want to focus on redstone instead of fighting the Ender Dragon. Just a checklist and a clock. That's high school for a lot of you, and that's exactly why you hate it. I'm not here to tell you just push through or it gets better, trust me, because I know how hollow that sounds when you're in the middle of it. I'm 27, I've got some distance from it now, and I want to actually break down why this specific game mode feels so bad, and more importantly, how you can change the way you're playing it, because you've got way more control over this than you think. So let's get into it. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. High school feels like hardcore mode. One life, no respawns, mess up the test, mess up the friendship, mess up the college application, and it feels like the world ends. Except, and this is important, high school is not actually hardcore mode. It feels that way because of how it's structured, not because it actually is that way. Think about how a normal Minecraft world works. You die, you respawn at your bed, you lose your stuff, sure, that stings, but you get another shot. You learn the cave system was sketchy, you build better armor, you go back in smarter. The whole point of regular survival mode is that failure is data, not a death sentence. High school doesn't feel like that because everything gets treated like it's permanent. One bad grade feels like it's going to follow you forever. One awkward social moment feels like it's going to define your entire reputation. One class you're bad at feels like proof you're bad at everything. But here's the truth. Almost none of it is actually permanent. Your GPA from freshman year isn't tattooed on your forehead at 25. The kid who embarrassed you in the cafeteria in 10th grade will not be invited to comment on your life when you're an adult. Most of what feels like hardcore mode is actually just regular survival mode, dressed up to feel scarier than it is. So step one of fixing how you feel about high school, stop playing it like one mistake ends the run. You've got more respawns than you think. Here's the second thing that makes high school brutal. It's basically Tutorial Island, except the tutorial doesn't match the actual game. Think about it. School teaches you the Pythagorean theorem, the dates of historical treaties, how to diagram a sentence. Meanwhile, nobody's teaching you how taxes work, how to deal with a roommate who never does dishes, how to handle a boss who's unreasonable, or how to figure out what you actually want to do with your life. It's like spending your whole tutorial learning sword combat for a game that's actually about farming. This mismatch is real, and it's a legitimate reason to be frustrated. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that high school is perfectly designed and you just need a better attitude. Some of this frustration is correct. The system genuinely wasn't built around what you specifically need. But here's the move. You can run your own side quests while you're stuck doing the main quest. You don't need permission to learn the stuff school doesn't teach you. You've got a phone with the entire internet on it. You can learn how credit cards work in 15 minutes. You can learn basic cooking, basic budgeting, how to write a decent email, how to have a hard conversation with someone. All of that on your own time, in parallel with the required curriculum. Think of required classes as the main quest line you can't skip, even when it's boring. But the real character development, the stuff that actually levels you up as a person, that's the side quests you choose for yourself. The kids who come out of high school feeling most prepared aren't always the ones with the best grades. They're often the ones who are quietly building side skills the whole time, because they didn't wait for the tutorial to teach them. Let's talk about something that I think causes more high school misery than grades ever do. The social stuff. In Minecraft, when you team up with people, you want a balanced party. Someone who's good at mining, someone who's good at building, someone who's got your back in a fight. You don't want a party where everyone's constantly competing with you, or where someone's secretly griefing your builds when you're not looking. A lot of you are miserable in high school not because of the classes, but because you're stuck in the wrong party. Maybe it's a friend group where you constantly feel like you have to perform a version of yourself to stay included. Maybe it's a group where someone's low-key always putting you down and calling it just joking. Maybe it's straight up loneliness, not having a party at all, watching everyone else seem to have their squad figured out while you're soloing it. Here's what I want you to actually sit with. You are allowed to leave a bad party. I know that sounds obvious typed out like that, but in the moment, when you're 16 and this group is what you've known since 7th grade, leaving feels like leaving the whole game. It's not. Friend groups in high school are not bound to you for life. They're not your only option. The server is bigger than the one base you've been living in. If your current group makes you feel small, anxious, or like you're constantly editing yourself to fit in, that's just not how friendships are. That's a bad party composition, and you're allowed to go find people who actually build you up instead of slowly chipping away at your blocks. And if you don't have a group at all right now, that's not a permanent character flaw. That's just where you are in the run. Clubs, teams, online communities around stuff you actually care about, even just one solid friend instead of a big group. These are all valid ways back in. You don't need an entire squad. Sometimes one good ally who's got your back is worth more than 10 people who don't. Okay, this one's important, so I want to slow down here. A lot of you treat your grades like they're your character level. Like, a B- means you're a worse person. A lower tier human being than the kid sitting next to you with straight A's. I need you to seriously reconsider that. Grades are loot. They're items you pick up along the way. Useful sometimes, especially for specific goals like getting into a particular school or program, but they are not your character level. They don't determine your stats. They don't decide your worth as a person. Think about how loot actually works in the game. Some loot is genuinely valuable. A diamond pickaxe is going to help you long term. Some loot is situational. That golden apple is amazing right now, in this specific fight, but it's not going to matter in 6 months. And some loot you pick up purely because you happen to walk past it, not because you were specifically hunting for it. Grades work the same way. Some of them matter a lot for specific paths you want to take. Some of them are basically irrelevant 6 months after you get them. None of them are a measurement of your fundamental character level as a human being. I've met plenty of adults who've had mediocre grades in high school and went on to build genuinely great lives, careers they like, relationships that work, a sense of who they are. I've also met people who had perfect grades and still feel completely lost as adults because they spent so much energy optimizing for loot drops that they never built any actual character skills. Emotional regulation, self-awareness, knowing how to handle failure, knowing how to talk to people. So, if you're in the trenches right now, stressed about a grade, I want you to ask, is this loot actually relevant to a goal I care about? Or have I just been told it's important so many times that I stopped questioning it? Sometimes the answer is, yes, this matters. I need to put in the work. That's fine. Pick up the loot. But sometimes the answer is no. Actually, I'm stressing over an item I don't even need for my build. And that's worth noticing too. Let's talk about probably the biggest reason high school messes with people's heads. Comparison. You're scrolling, you see someone your age who already has their whole life figured out. And it feels like everyone else got a head start on a world you haven't even loaded into yet. Here's the thing about comparison. It's basically letting someone else's build dictate how you feel about your own world. Imagine spending hours building something you're proud of in Minecraft, then walking onto someone else's server, looking at their massive castle, and deciding your build is garbage because it's not the same. That's not a fair comparison. You don't know how long they've played. You don't know if they had access to resources you don't have. You don't know if half their build is actually hollow on the inside. Social media is basically everyone showing you their build from one angle that makes it look like a finished masterpiece. Nobody's filming the part where they're stuck, confused, grinding through something boring, or straight up failing. You're comparing your full, messy, unedited gameplay to someone else's highlight reel, and that's never going to feel fair, because it isn't. The fix isn't stop caring what anyone thinks. That's basically impossible, and honestly, a little inhuman. The fix is reminding yourself, consistently, that you are looking at one rendered frame of someone's world, not the whole save file. You don't know their lag, their bugs, their crashes. Stop letting someone else's highlight reel grief your own progress. This one's going to sound a little weird, but stick with me. A lot of high school frustration comes from feeling like teachers and parents are obstacles, like they're just there to assign quests you don't want and block paths you're trying to take. And sometimes, yeah, that's genuinely how it feels in the moment. But here's a reframe that helped me a lot looking back. Teachers and parents are NPCs running their own quest lines, and you happen to be a character in their story too. Your teacher isn't just an obstacle generator, they've got 30 other characters in that classroom, a curriculum they didn't fully design themselves, and pressures you don't see. Your parents aren't just rule enforcers, they're running their own background quest about trying to make sure you turn out okay, often based on mistakes from their own playthrough that you don't even know about. This doesn't mean every adult in your life is automatically right, or that you have to agree with every rule. Some NPCs genuinely give bad quests. Some give advice based on outdated game patches, strategies that worked in their version of the world but don't apply to yours anymore. You're allowed to recognize that, but understanding that they've got their own storyline running, separate from yours, can take a lot of the personal sting out of conflicts. It's not always this person is against me. Sometimes it's just two characters with different quest objectives, temporarily colliding in the same scene. Alright, I want to hit the thing that I think causes more quiet anxiety than literally anything else on this list. The feeling that you're behind. Behind who? Behind what? Here's something that should be obvious but somehow isn't. You are, right now, in the earliest possible stage of your game. You have barely placed your first few blocks. You haven't even fully explored the map yet. And somehow you're comparing your current inventory to people who've been playing for years longer, or to some imaginary ideal player who doesn't actually exist. There's no universal timer that says by age 17 you should have your purpose figured out, or by age 19 you should know exactly what career you want. That timeline is made up. Nobody handed you that rulebook because it doesn't exist. People just act like it because everyone around them is anxiously pretending it does too. Some players find their main strategy early. Some don't find it until way later. Both are completely normal playthroughs. The kid who knows exactly what they want to study at 16 isn't winning some race you're losing. They just found their build order early. You finding yours later doesn't mean you're losing. It might mean your world generated a little differently, and that's fine. Different seeds produce different maps. I promise you, almost nobody who has their life together at 27, 30, 35 had it figured out at 17. Most of us were still wandering, still confused, still occasionally building something just to tear it down a month later. That's not falling behind. That's just what early game looks like for basically everyone, even if they don't post about it. Okay, so how do you actually take all of this and do something with it? Let's get tactical for a second. First, stop treating every loss as a permanent death. When something goes badly, a grade, a friendship, a rejection, ask yourself, is this actually game over, or does it just feel that way right now? Almost always it's the second one. You respawn, you keep your XP, you go back in smarter. Second, run your own side quests. Don't wait for school to teach you the real world stuff. Spend 20 minutes a week learning something practical that nobody assigned you. Money, communication, cooking, whatever. That stuff compounds way more than people expect. Third, audit your party. Look honestly at the people you spend the most time with. Do they make you feel like a better version of yourself, or a smaller one? You're allowed to slowly drift toward better company, even if it's uncomfortable at first. Fourth, separate your loot from your level. Your grades are items, not your character stats. Some matter for specific goals, most don't define who you are. Stop letting a number on a report card tell you your worth. Fifth, stop comparing your full playthrough to someone else's highlight clip. You don't see their crashes, you don't see their bugs, you're not actually behind them, you're just watching a different angle of a game you can't fully see. Sixth, remember the adults around you have their own quest lines. Doesn't mean they're always right, but it can take the personal sting out of a lot of conflict. And seventh, the big one, remember you are early game. You are not behind. You're exactly where most people are at your age. Still exploring, still figuring out the map, still placing your first real blocks. That's not a problem to fix, that's just what this part of the run looks like. Look, I'm not going to pretend high school doesn't have real, legitimate problems. Some of what's frustrating you isn't in your head. It's a structure that genuinely wasn't built around what you actually need. That part's real, and you're allowed to be frustrated by it. But how you experience that structure, whether it crushes you or just becomes one chapter you get through, A lot of that actually is in your hands. You get to decide if a bad day is a permanent death or just a respawn. You get to decide if your grades are your whole identity or just some loot you picked up along the way. You get to decide who's actually in your party. You're not behind, you're not failing some invisible timeline. You're early game. And early game is supposed to feel a little chaotic, a little uncertain, a little, wait, what am I even supposed to be building here? That's not a glitch, that's just the game. Alright, that's it for this one. If this helped even a little, you know what to do. Subscribe, drop a comment with what part hit hardest, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay crafting.